Okay, today we're going to work on dividing rational expressions. And the way that we're going to start this off is we're going to start by looking at just how do you divide a regular fraction. And the rule that I was always taught is you multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so I never divided, I always multiplied by the reciprocal. Now, the first thing is obviously multiply, I think that you guys should know. Reciprocal. A reciprocal, if I have 2/3, the reciprocal of 2/3 is you just take that and you flip it over. So that's 3/2. So I'm going to use that fact to be able to do these problems. And I know on Monday we talked about what is the restricted value. And I think even on the worksheet for today, you have that. I'm not really too worried about the restricted values. I want you to be able to do these things, be able to multiply and divide these fractions really well, and be able to do this. So that's not necessarily highest priority for me today. So let's start off with this one. 3/5 divided by 2/7. So the 3/5 stays exactly the same. Nothing happens to that first fraction. And then now the division becomes multiplication. And I take that next fraction, which is 2/7, and I produce its reciprocal, which is 7/2. Now it's a multiplication problem very similar to what we did on Monday. So I look at this and I want to say, okay, can I reduce on the diagonals? Is there a number that goes into both 3 and 2? There isn't. Is there a number that goes into both 5 and 7 other than 1? There isn't. So now I can't do anything to this. I can't make this any smaller. So now I multiply straight across. 3 times 7 is 21. 5 times 2 is 10. So there's that first answer. Now let's look at the next one. 1/2 divided by 1/4. So again, I have 1/2. Change that division to multiplication and flip this one over. So it's 4/1. Now, at this particular stage, what I look at is I notice that both the 2 and the 4 are even. So I'm going to divide 2 by 2, which gives me 1, and 4 by 2, which will give me 2. Now, I can't reduce anything else, so now I multiply straight across. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. So this answer ends up to be just 2. Now let's look at the last example here. This one's going to be a little bit more challenging because it's algebraic fraction, but we're going to use that same habit, that same foundation that we have with multiplying and dividing fractions to be able to do this problem. So the 1 over x, that's going to stay exactly the same. Nothing happened to that. The division becomes multiplication, and I'm going to flip the x plus 1 over x on top of each other. So that means the x goes to the top, and the x plus 1 stays in the bottom. Now what I look for is what can I reduce? I can't reduce the x and the x there because remember I got that x plus 1, it's all or nothing, and I can't do that. But I can reduce the two x's, and that goes away there. The 1's don't go away. That doesn't do anything. Now when I reduce these x's, I'm dividing them both by x, so I'm left with a 1. So now I'm done with this. I gather up everything. I multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. The bottom is 1 times x plus 1, which is just x plus 1. So there I go with this one. Next one. So now here's a general plan about how to be able to do these things. All right. So first of all, I start off by factoring it. I factor it down as much as I can. Change the multiplication and write the reciprocal. Now I kind of do these two first steps all together. So starting on this one, x squared minus 1. So when I see x squared and two terms, I'm hoping that this is a nice, easy to factor one, and this one happens to be. So I'm looking what multiplies to make -1 and adds to make 0. So the top is going to be 2 sets of parentheses, and I think it's -1 and +1. X minus 2, well, that nothing's happening to that. That stays the same. Now, change the division sign to multiply. And now I don't pick on the bottom because I don't flip this over to the top. I'm flipping these two. And so I don't focus right there on the bottom. X plus 3, that's going to be the same. X minus 1, that comes along as well. So now I start to look, okay, what can I do to reduce this? X minus 1, X minus 1. Those are diagonally across from each other. I can get rid of them. I can't cancel this x and this x because it's all or nothing. So that's all I got. I can't do anything else in the top. The bottom is just x minus 2. So I'm going to just go ahead and write the bottom one down. The top is x plus 1, x plus 3. And that's my final answer for this one. Okay, so again, I'm trying to follow what I do with regular fractions as best as I can. Factor them. That's don't change the way they look, but that's all right. It's regular fraction. Multiply by the reciprocal. See if I can reduce. So here's another one. This looks pretty complicated. I'll start off with the x squared plus 8. So I can x squared plus 8x plus that plus 7. I can factor that, I think. Well, multiplies make 7 and adds to make 8. Well, that's got to be 7 and 1. Now I'm looking at the x squared plus x minus 12. So I'm going to hope that I can factor this as well. And I'm looking at what multiplies to make 12 and subtracts to give me 1. So that's positive 4 and negative 3. So that's all I got to, and I can check right there. Can I cancel anything? Is there anything that's exactly the same in the top and the bottom? But they're not. So I'm not going to do anything. Change that division sign to multiply. And I don't look at the bottom. Well, normally when I see that x squared, I think 2 sets of parentheses, but I really don't like that 2 that's in front of it. And so I notice that the 2 and the 6 are both even. So I can probably divide both of those by 2. And I also notice there's an x in both. So I'm going to take out that 2x. Well, that's what I just factored out in front. The 2's divided out. The x goes away, and so does one of those. So that's just an x. These x's cancel off, and 2 will go into 6 3 times. Now this last one, x squared minus 1. 2 sets of parentheses. Well, multiplies to make negative 1 and adds to make 0. Well, that's positive 1 and negative 1. Okay, I got a lot of things I can look at here. I see this x plus 1. I see this x plus 1. I see x minus 3. I see x minus 3. I see x's, but those don't count. I see this x right here. That doesn't help either. So that's it. So let's gather up. I got 2x, x plus 7, and x plus 4, x minus 1. So that's my final answer for this one. It feels like I should be able to cancel something out, but I can't. I got to do all of it or none of it, so it just doesn't work. Whenever I do problems like this, I'm thinking I can cancel something off, and I was able to, but not as much as I like. Last example here. So the x minus 2 in the top, that just stays. X squared, so I'm going to go with my 2 sets of parentheses. Multiplies to make 2, adds to make 3. That's got to be just 2 and 1. Division changes to multiply. So I'm looking at the bottom. So I'm going to take that x. Well, multiplies to make 4 and adds to make 4. Well, 2 and 2. And then I look at 3x plus 3. Well, there's a 3 in both. So let's take out the 3. And I'm dividing both this by 3. That goes away. This is just a 1. All right, cancel things off. Ooh, x minus 2. I almost pulled it, but nope. I think this one will go away. I got 2 x plus 1s, but they're both in the bottom. That doesn't get it done. So that's it. So I have x minus 2, x plus 2 over 3, x plus 1, x plus 1. Okay, hopefully that's enough to give you guys a pretty good start for today. And I'm looking forward to be back in the classroom on Friday.